Titi Ijimakinwa and a director of AIP BOESS. Our covenant is to tell a new African story with agriculture. We believe that God has blessed Africa. Permit me to say that, and I say that very confidently. We have good land, we have good resources. So we're going to set the ball rolling this morning by inviting and introducing our panelists to actually introduce themselves. The theme of our conversation this morning is developing export markets for agri and food producing for SMEs, which is very, very key to moving agriculture, which is what Africa is an agrarian cultural space. We want to move Africa from just agriculture to agribusiness. So let's just set the ball rolling. I would ask Keith Richards, to please quickly introduce yourself to the panelists and to the participants on this platform this morning.
So thanks. Yes, I was the CEO of several Nigerian consumer-facing companies during the period, during the 90s and the 2000s. I was CEO of Guinness and Promasador, who make cowbell milk. And although I've retired from executive positions, I'm still involved various advisory, and I'm the chairman of L&Z Dairy in Kano. We're trying to support the development of indigenous dairy and dairy-related businesses. And if you like, I've kind of crossed over from importing powdered milk to trying to support the development of a local industry and seeing the challenges and issues that that has. So I'm very honoured to be invited on the panel this morning, and I wish everybody good deliberations.
My name is Guillermo Caravante. I'm an engineer consulting from Asut on charge of Africa and Eastern Europe. My experience in Africa is I've been living 2 years in several countries around the continent, working for several irrigation and production projects. Right now, I am going to speak a little bit about the market windows that you have for introduce your products here in Europe. So also I would like to give you a gift, and you can download the presentation that I am going to do this morning. And thank you very much.
It's good to be a part of this conversation this morning. My name is Surajit Raha, and I head up global sales and marketing for Kobo 360. And I've been in Nigeria with Kobo 360 for about a year now. I've been in the logistics and infrastructure space for quite a while. Kobo 360 is the third startup that I'm a part of. Prior to this, I was part of the core team that helped build 2 large logistics startups in India. And then I spent time with an infrastructure advisory services company in India, one of India's biggest infrastructure advisory services company. So I have a fair idea of how this game works in terms of logistics and infrastructure. And I'm looking forward to very meaningful discussions this morning.
Yeah, good morning, and thank you very much for having me. So my name is Ladipo. I'm in food process. So I process peanuts. I am CEO of a company called L&L Foods. About 6 years ago, we saw a space in the market. We realized that over 90% of the peanuts in Nigeria were processed by cottage processors and sold in used wine bottles or cellophane bags. So there was no quality, there was no differentiation. But what we then understood was that there was no economies of scale. And so that was our core strategies. How do we commercialize that industry, considering that it had such a large consumption? And since then, we've been able to build a local brand that's targeted at the bottom of the pyramid consumer. But by sort of executing on that vision, we've had to become vertically integrated in some sense. So working with farmers and sort of taking more control of the supply chain. So yes, it's a pleasure to be here.
My name is Zephaniah. The Development Finance Department work range from development policies, partnerships, to support SMEs. We also support capacity building in critical areas of skill gap. And then the one that everybody seems to know much, we grant loans and grants to support focal commodities have impact on the foreign reserve of Nigeria. So we're glad to be in this session. It's an opportunity that I would like to share thoughts with stakeholders on how to move SMEs in Nigeria forward, particularly with relation to export trade and taking advantage of the opportunity.
My name is Busola Ogunyemi. I'm CEO, MD, Thelma Farms. We're in Ijebu, Imaka. We export vegetables, indigenous vegetables to England. And we also export some other products, some other agri products to England. We saw that when we traveled, myself and my team, we actually saw that a lot of the Nigerian products are actually brought in not from Nigeria, but maybe from Ghana and other neighboring countries. So we came back home and did our homework, and we joined hands with the Bank of Industry. And we started export. That's like 7 years ago. And it's been a wonderful experience, a wonderful experience.
I talk on behalf of the AIP BOESS team. I'm the business development director in Europe. I'm based in Spain, and I'm Titi's and Michael's partner in this fantastic initiatives that we have started since December. I'll be talking to you about the rest of the things that we have started planning to share with all of you guys in the agri, fish, cattle, poultry export from Nigeria and West Africa to the rest of the world. Thank you very much.
And I'm going to ask Michael Kadri, the CEO of AIP BOESS, to quickly give us an insight, a preamble to this conversation before I go back to Zephaniah to set the talk going. Michael?
Hello, my presentation is going to give a helicopter view of the agri-commodity export sector. I will highlight some of the interesting numbers. My objective will be to give this audience a sense of what the sector is doing, with particular emphasis on what the possibilities are and perhaps where people might want to focus their plans on. As we can see from the last time we had figures, thanks to some data from PwC, we show that agri-commodity exports grew from 170 billion naira to over 300 billion naira in 2018. We actually have hundreds of these agri-commodities in Nigeria that you could export. And every day, various government initiatives from the CBN, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, and others are making the journey to become an exporter easier than perhaps was the case a few years ago. So these macro numbers, i.e., that Nigeria exports more than $1 billion worth of agri-commodities and food per annum, tells us that some other entrepreneurs, some of whom we will hear from today, have already identified this opportunity. And maybe many of you are here today because something is stirring in your minds that you too should consider taking advantage of one simple fact, which is that Nigeria has commodities that the world will like to buy. Much of Nigeria's agri-produce gets exported to Asia, with Japan, India, and China being the three main destinations. Value of export to Asia was 179 billion naira in 2018, which was a huge improvement from the 67 billion naira the year before. So there's already massive growth, maybe stalled a little by the congestions at the Lagos Port and COVID, but the trend is certainly up, and many people are looking at the space for the simple reason that the Nigerian government talks about agriculture all the time. But unfortunately, exporting to other African countries remains disappointingly low at less than 5 billion naira per annum. Perhaps we hope that this can be improved with the recently ratified African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, although, like everything else, there's probably much to be done to make this laudable intention a reality for you and I who wish to export to our fellow Africans. People talk about Nigeria being top 10 producer of oil and gas in the world, and that's true. But in some agri-commodities, we are top 3 in the world, like in sesame seeds, where only China and India produce more sesame than we do. We should not forget the commodity curse, though, where, for example, Nigeria exports raw or nearly raw sesame seeds and imports sesame oil. We know that there are farmers all over the West African coast that farm cocoa but have never seen a bar of chocolate. At AIP BOESS, we don't get mad at commodity curse. We see it as a big commercial opportunity. One other cash crop that's often spoken about in Nigeria is cashew. Cashew grows in 19 states in Nigeria, from where we produce in total 120,000 metric tons per annum, making Nigeria the 6th largest producer in the world. An endowment of Nigeria is that much of our south face of the country is on the coast of the Atlantic Ocean. We're also blessed with hundreds of lagoons. However, our seafood exports, prawns, shrimps, and other fish continue to shrink, and we may have to look into other markets beyond the 2 largest ones that we have, which are the Netherlands and Belgium, in order to grow and advance the exports of seafood. Most people who look at Nigeria will conclude that the country literally has hundreds of commodities and cash crops that you can add value to and export for dollar incomes. We are an importer of rice right now, but at the rate we are going and based on the rice projects that we know are dotted all over the country, we could easily become a net exporter in years to come. What we locally call egusi, it has great nutritional value and it is well sought after around the world. Nigerian ginger is highly regarded. It's set to continue to grow because of the health benefits and greater demand coming from all parts of the world, as most people, especially in Western industrialized countries, are seeking to become more health conscious in their diets. The same thing applies with garlic, which is the second most widely used allium after onions, a great medical supplement. Nigeria is the highest producer of plantain in Africa, and due to global migration, the increase in demand that we have seen in recent years is set to continue. We are top producers of cola in the world. A number of astute agripreneurs already benefit from exporting cola into the international global food chain. So other produce that Nigeria has an abundance of and are in great demand across the world include groundnuts, crabs, palm kernel, honey, pepper, millets, and there are literally hundreds others. I bet most people don't know what chicken peas are. Most people may not even know that Nigeria has an abundance of chicken peas. At AIP BOESS, we only found out because one of our Indian partners needed to work with us to export more than 100 tons of chicken peas out of Nigeria. Amazing. So obviously, wherever you are in the country, there are agri-commodities and cash crops and food all around you that is well sought after around the world and that you can make a good income from. Before you go to the bank to cash your checks, however, there is much you need to know and put in place. At AIP BOESS, we say that agriculture is life, and our sentiments are that you have to respect it and its people. It is not a good idea, neither is it good for farmers and our economy to export raw commodities. You should process or refine, and those terms are not as scary or expensive as they sound. You have to achieve standards, know the rules, be clear on how you will manage your logistics around this tough country of ours. And how do you know exactly what the buyers want? All of this and more, I am sure you will find out today because you are in the right place. The central bank is here. Kobo 360 is here. Asud from Spain, they're here, as well as interested members from our audience in all manner of commercial endeavors along the value chain of agriculture and food production. And I'm sure that with all the comments that are made, we will all learn a thing or two about how we can improve our current export projects or guide us in helping us prepare to start to export Nigerian cash crops for dollar incomes. Keith Richards, OBE, one of Nigeria's foremost business leaders, will talk about how we can ready ourselves to attract buyers from around the world. On the panel, we also have Busola Ogunyemi, an experienced food producer and commodity originator who will give, I'm sure, very useful insights that you will truly benefit from at the end of this event. I thank you and welcome.
We can see that truly there is a potential, but for us to be able to activate and actualize this potential, we need to put policies and processes in place. And as we put those policies and processes in place, they must be practically employed. So there are practices and there are people that must be on ground to actually put these things in place, action points, actionalize these processes and these opportunities, and see how it translates into possible solutions. You can see that we have an energetic population of young people who can be duly employed, trained, to go from processes to producing to purchasing to so many things. And that's the gamut of what we have to discuss today. So Zephaniah, we welcome you again, representing the Central Bank of Nigeria, the institution that formulates our policies in terms of financial across board of every sector. So the first question we're going to ask you this morning is to just give us an overview of what are the policies in place, government-wise, financial-wise, CBN. What exactly? Where are we?
Thank you very much. From the Central Bank of Nigeria point of view, the CBN development finance efforts is in line with the mandate establishing the bank. As you know, every central bank in the world should be concerned about price stability, should be concerned about the exchange rate of the currency of that country. If you have positive balance of payments, I'm glad we're having this conversation today. If we're able to export a lot of goods and earn foreign exchange, the exchange rate of the naira will improve. So this effort strikes directly on the mandate of the Central Bank of Nigeria. What are we doing? What are the reasons for the policies that we are currently championing? First of all, SMEs, as we all know, form the engine of growth in every country. McKinsey did a beautiful report about 2009, 2010 that has it that there are over 37 million MSMEs in Nigeria. And so if you are talking about a central bank that really wants to do something about the economy to grow, that's where to look at. So there are basically 4 things that we do at the central bank level as the foremost monetary institution in Nigeria. One is that we use our policies to drive the hand of economic growth in a manner that we achieve financial inclusion, sustainable economic development. So I'm speaking about policies in general. Policies that support SMEs to make sure that they grow. The second is that we champion partnerships. You have the information about ease of doing business and where Nigeria currently stands. We use the might of our institution to champion partnerships with Federal Ministry of Agri, Standard Organization of Nigeria, NAFDAC, you name it. When we sit down with them in a room, we have conversations that will help the entire SME space to develop, not just for export, but for us to be self-sustainable and achieve food security. The third one is capacity building. The central bank established capacity skill development centers in 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria. At some point, we changed them to vocational centers instead of just broad skill development centers. And so this is incubation locations for youths and people who have great ideas to learn and then get financing to begin to practice what they're doing. And then finally, and perhaps the one that is more popular, we grant loans to businesses. As of today, there are over 25 interventions that are championed by the central bank. And in terms of number of people that have benefited from this, can be less than 3 million Nigerians in diverse areas of endeavors who have participated and accessed funds from the CBN. So this is in a nutshell what we are doing to support SMEs in Nigeria, both to produce locally and for export.
Narrowing it down to what we have on the table, how exactly is that impacting on the agri commodity trade space? Now, narrowing it down to agriculture particularly, what can CBN do, particularly now, more definitely in the area of agri commodity trade development, the things that we need to put in place, the processing, beyond what we are doing now, which is a bit skeletal, if you ask me, but what can we do and what exactly is the plan going forward, the future plan, post-COVID?
All right, thank you very much. First of all is to us to echo the fact that the CBN is essentially a monetary institution, okay? What we do beyond the bounds of our act that established us is to partner with responsible agencies for us to see how we can make progress. And then having said that, most of what we do is to provide loans. We identify areas that are critical in agriculture for Nigerian economy, and we provide financing in those areas. Apart from financing, we ensure that there is sustainable development. And how you achieve this is to look at each item on the basis of the place they stand in the entire value chain. And that takes me to the Anchor Borrowers Program of the Central Bank of Nigeria. And this is perhaps the most popular intervention that we are currently championing. If we all are committed to this, this is probably going to be a game changer in the agri space in Nigeria. Because before now, previous interventions, previous efforts by different agencies of Nigeria has been to provide financing. Maybe you provide financing for somebody who wants to export soybeans. You provide financing for somebody who wants to plant cassava and maize and the likes. But what is happening now is, apart from providing the financing, to provide a linkage for those smallholder farmers that grow those focal crops to be linked to processors who will process them in an arrangement that ensures that those farmers get value for their money and not have to run around to look for buyers at harvest. And then provide financing in turn for those processing plants. And now you see from start to finish, from the point of training the farmers to cultivate, to ensuring that there are offtake agreements between them and processors, and then providing funds for those processors to import the required machinery to add value to these items before they are ultimately either consumed locally or they are exported. And so under the Anchor Borrowers Program of the CBN, this is exactly what we try to do. And it's not for all the crops in Nigeria. There are focal crops, as you know, because we are central bank, most of our efforts has to be championed towards the mandate that established the bank. And so we're interested in those crops that the importation of them hits the external reserve of Nigeria more. We want to achieve positive balance of payments from financing those crops. So there are focal commodities, including rice, wheat, sorghum, maize, cassava, and the rest of them. So when we finance them, we ensure that we look at the entire value chain up till the point of exporting those commodities. So that's exactly what we are doing currently.
Okay, thank you very much. A quick one. I know you need to get out of here quickly now. I would like to just want you to highlight on the issue of, since we're looking at export markets potential and all of that, are there things that intending exporters, because most of the things that we are looking at and the solutions we are bringing is going to definitely involve some global interface with some local producers and those who want to come in to invest. Are there things that we should know in terms of what are the ongoing financial policies if I invest in Nigeria, agri sector, and I'm taking out goods on export? What are the landing points? What are the things that I should note, either as someone who wants to export and those investors that we're hoping to bring on board? Because there are many questions that they're asking. Local content issue, in terms of how do we remit funds, and all those things are done. Before I take the last question and let you go. Go ahead.
Okay, first thing I'd like to say, I was so elated watching the video that Michael Kadri showed us. You saw the export potentials of Nigeria, and I was so happy listening to those numbers that, in terms of foreign exchange that we earned. First thing I'd like to say is that let everyone who is interested in export have discussion with the relevant agencies, including Central Bank of Nigeria. Fill the necessary export papers so that repatriation of the foreign exchange will be at without much hitches. And then secondly, the central bank and other agencies are currently working on a lot that will unlock the commodities market and ensure that we don't only have export potentials, we have proper grading mechanism, we have proper warehouses to warehouse these commodities in a manner that they retain their quality. We have warehouse receipts issued that can be traded on. And once we make the commodity market liquid, and farmers know that when they go in to farm something, there are appropriate infrastructure that will cater for the losses we have in Nigeria. And then the market is liquid in such a manner that I really don't have to wait till I get people who are willing to buy the items at good price. I can convert the instrument I have to cash and go back to farm. So a lot of discussion is going on currently around that. And then once this gets to the level that we can expose to people where exactly we're going, we'll be more than glad to do that. Just for me to mention that most of what the central bank is doing is to provide financing. We still rely on other agencies to do their bit so that we all, in a synergy, achieve the Nigeria of our dream.
Is there a possibility, or is it existing already? Do we have an active commodity exchange market? Because the issue of pricing, because I mean, I thought we're going to go talk to you about this later, but since you need to go, I'm just trying to put everything together. The issue of commodity pricing is a big issue that we need to deal with, because it's not, and that's one of the things that we need to sort out in order for us to be able to play effectively in the global space. Now, the need is Nigeria really seriously thinking about setting up an agri commodity exchange market, like it's done in most civilized climes, where at least you know what you're buying, you know when you're producing, so it's not fluctuating, and then the farmers are well protected because the price is protected. Pricing is protected. Number one. Number two, where are we, and what impact or input does CBN have on the newly ratified African Free Trade Zone, the AfCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area? What exactly are we positioned there? What should we be thinking and knowing, and how do we play in that sector in terms of policy and processes? Thank you.
First of all, on the commodity exchange, we are not where we're supposed to be. There is no prevarication about that. The Security and Exchange Commission, which is the regulator of that industry, will be in a better position to speak. I am aware there's a lot of effort around the government now. In the next couple of weeks or months, we'll get detail of what is happening in that sector. But suffice it to say that we're not where we should be. If we're serious as a nation to create a robust export market for agri-produce that, first of all, identifies the market, adds value to it, and incentivizes the operator, there is no way we can do it without a very active commodity exchange. So that is in the works, and the team working on that should be able to give us something we'll be proud of. Now, to the after and the opportunities that lie for us in the Continental Free Trade Agreement that Nigeria is part of. You know, one of the things that God has blessed us with is the market, the sheer size of the Nigerian market. A market of over 200 million people is a market that the whole world should be careful with. It's a market that Africa should be our playground. For us at the central bank, this is the whole essence of these new interventions. The Nigerian Export Stimulation Facility of the Central Bank, which we have put in place for exporters working with Nexim Bank, the Anchor Borrower Scheme, and you can see the fight that CBN literally spearheaded about rice. It was in the documentary that we watched shortly, where what happens in the whole of the sub-region of Africa is that countries around us literally create warehouses, and the movement is from Europe and the rest of the world to those small countries and then straight to Nigeria without commensurate export of all the items that we have capacity for. So under the AFTA, what the CBN is doing is to work with similar institutions like the Export Promoting Commission of Nigeria to work to identify SMEs, even in IT, people who have great potentials that we can export to the rest of Africa and the rest of the world. The effort is going on. You might not see the result now, but I'm sure in the next couple of months, by middle of this year and end of the year, we'll begin to see huge result from the ongoing discussions that are happening now.
Thank you very much, Zephaniah. I think I need to let you go now, but I believe that we'll soon have you back on AgriTalk soon, because you can see that we've opened up a gamut of issues that we need to thresh. And since we're all committed to see agriculture where it should be placed and see ourselves play effectively, definitely I know that CBN would come on board and partner with us in this journey. Thank you very much. We appreciate your coming. So let's take our advert now. Thank you.
We are the IMAT company. We offer agri infrastructure, mechanization, and technology solutions from some of the world's most advanced research and development manufacturers. Partnering with the likes of Asud of Spain, representing the water crop tray from Tal Yal in Israel, amongst others. The IMAT company is determined to propel agriculture and food production in Africa's largest economy. The IMAT company, agricultural inputs that matter.
Busola Ogbonnaya to give us an insight into our world, the world of thermal farms.
Exporting, I export vegetables and some other food items to England. And I'll just share my brief experience with exporting or in exporting. And then I'll share the pros and cons and all the things I've been through and how we got to where we are. Myself and my team traveled, as I said before, and we noticed that a lot of the things abroad were actually brought from Nigeria. Well, actually things that we have in Nigeria, but were brought into England from other neighboring countries and not Nigeria. So we decided to come back and do our homework. So the first thing we did is to find out where we could get land and how much it would cost to prepare the land. We had to do all our homework. Then we had to now find out that how do we get off-takers for whatever products we're planting. And we need to plant to specification of the off-takers. So we know that for us to do vegetables, you know, your vegetables have to have long shelf lives. What are the inputs? Do the off-takers want them to be organic or inorganic? We need to do. So we had to start doing all our homework in that field. Clearing, I'll come back to clearing. So then you need to go back to the relevant agencies to see what you need to do to be able to export. You need to go to quarantine, you need to go to the airlines to see how much it would cost. Then you sit back and now look at how much are you going to sell your products for? How much are the products actually going for in the market? So those were the first things I did. And how do I want my products to be presented in terms of presentation? I was doing vegetables and we were preparing them or presenting them in forms of bouquets. And you need to know how much each bouquet would go for. So after doing all that, I now had to source for money and then had to source for the land. So we sourced for money to get the land, prepared the land. Then we now approached Bank of Industry. And Bank of Industry was of tremendous help to us because they gave us all the funds to buy the implements that we needed. Now we go back to the airlines, working out a deal with the airlines, finding out which airline would actually take off at what time are they getting to our destination, who is going to pick up at the destination, what are the rules and the regulations at the destination, where the product is going to. After finding out what the products, what the regulations are on the other end, your logistics on the receiving end must be perfect. because once you have promised an off-taker that you would get so product to them by 12 o'clock, you need to work out how the product is going to leave the airport, pass through the customs at the location, be picked up by your agent, be delivered to your off-takers on time and in good quality. So, because we're sending perishables, so if there's any downtime, it could affect your product, and especially vegetables, which are very sensitive to temperature. So we worked backwards. We did all our findings before now coming back to the farm and planting to specification of our off-takers. Now, I'm trying to wrap everything up quickly because I know I've been given a short time to talk. Well, I'll quickly go to harvesting, because once you have your off-takers, you have the airline booked, you have all your logistics booked. Now, harvesting the products that you have, you need to make sure that you have a quality control check section. For about 4 years, I was the one manning the quality control check or heading the team at the quality control check section, because the vegetables, once we harvest, we were doing vegetables, shoko, tete, ugu, ewedu, igbo. Once we harvest, we crash the temperature by sticking it in cold water. Once we stick it in cold water and crash the temperature so it does not wilt. The temperature will not make it wilt. So once we do that, we now pass through a team that has to scrutinize and see that the vegetables we're about to pack are actually bug-free, because anything that has bugs will not pass through the quarantine section here at the airport. And if you even miss it, which they hardly do, they never ever miss the bugs. Once the bugs are found, your goods will be destroyed or returned to you. And if perchance any of the vegetables actually get abroad and they find out that it has some bugs, all the consignment that is sent will be destroyed. I've had occasions in which we're paying a huge amount for destruction, because you would also pay for destruction in England. The amount I was meant to pay for the destruction was nearly more than what I was meant to make from the whole consignment, and everything was destroyed. So you have to be particular about your delivery, about your quality. You have to be consistent in the market, that once your customer, your off-taker knows that, oh, I'm getting a wedu from Thelma Farms on the 3rd, you have to do all you can to make sure that they get it, because they're also dependent on you. And they're going to lose customers if you keep disappointing. So consistency goes a long way in the business. Quality control is tops in the business. We invested in cooling vans, in different implements to make sure that our quality is kept at top grade. The relevant agencies quarantine, because once your goods get to the airport in Lagos, that's a few hours before your flight. It depends on which flight you're taking or you're flying by. Once your goods get there, it is checked at the lab by the quarantine section. It's passed through NDLE, it's passed through customs, it goes through SSS, before it now goes into the holding area. Initially, when we started, the holding areas, not all were cold, not all were cold, but now they have cold holding areas at the airport. It's either Sapol or NACO shed. And the team there, everybody works as a team anyway. We all work as a team trying to get the products out. What you need, the major thing is getting the right quality. Once you have the right quality, you would have no problems with all the agencies you're meant to deal with. You would have no problems with the customs abroad. And your customer over there would also be extremely happy to get good products from you. Thank you.
I'd like to bring Guillermo Carabante in to give us an insight of what the European standards are, because based on what Busola has said, she's given us an insight about what happens on this end, and also allowed us to know that if you get there to that other side and you're not really prepared, you probably get yourself in trouble, and you probably, you're going to lose a lot of money. So Guillermo, can you just kind of corroborate or just expand on what she has said about the European buyers? What are they looking for?
Thank you very much, Titi. Okay, I'm not an expert about the standards and the standard solution, etc., but I can tell you that there are many agencies on charge, international agencies on charge of this stuff. Okay, standards is quality standard for all the products that your producers are going to send abroad to overseas, mostly for exportation into UK, European market, or United States market. No, this is a tracking and monitoring of every step of the production chain, from the soil, from the seeds, until the packing and the transport. This is mandatory in order to send all your production abroad, okay? As I said, there are many companies on charge of this, and it's not, these companies can be training your people and get contact with another agencies, local agencies in the different countries, in Nigeria, etc. And is some surveys, some pursue the following the production and how is it the soil, the pest that you are using, because this is an interesting point. There is some kind of pest, like for example, chlorpyrifos, that is prohibited here in Spain. It couldn't be, or it is not allowed to track any piece of this chlorpyrifos in any mango, in any avocado, any watermelon, or something like this. It's changed a little bit your paradigm, but it's very easy and it's not expensive, and you will recover the revenue after the exportation, because we are going to see right now that the sports is very, very yield. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You see that to a large extent, Guillermo has actually confirmed a bit of what Busola said, that you've got to go through the process. She deliberately took us through that process to make us know that we can't afford to skip any, from planting to harvesting and to processing and packaging. I'd like to bring in Keith Richards at this point, just to expound a bit more on the issues that pertain to this potential export markets that we're seeing, and what it is that we should know, given your wealth of experience. You've got different sectors, and you landed now in Agri, and so definitely you know the export market at the back of your hand. So what I would like you to identify, or to highlight for us, is what are the gaps between companies that are ready to export and what they need to do before they export. They're getting ready to export. I know that a lot of things have been said, but from experiential knowledge of your own scope of experience, what would you say are the gaps that we have in Nigeria and Africa as a whole? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Titi. Well, first of all, I thought what Busola said was absolutely right. And what she said was, first of all, she saw the opportunity, but then her team did their studies and their research. And my experience is too many people, and this is whether we're talking about people that want to export or people who want to do import substitution, which was what I actually have more experience of, working with as a Nigerian FMCG. Companies would come to us, and the issues would be very similar to exporters. So first of all, you need to do that research and understand the market, whether it's off-takers, if you're going to use distributors, if you're going to supply for manufacturing process in local or export. A lot of my experience is a lot of SMEs don't understand those requirements. So when we talk about quality, for example, understanding what your off-taker's definition of quality is, it could be all sorts of things. If it's an input, and this is, for example, in in Nigeria, when I was running Promasidor and we made onga seasoning, we tried to buy as many of the local herbs and spices as we could. But the producers didn't understand that we needed exactly the same quality on a regular basis, because if there are any changes, it meant our seasoning would change their flavor, and then we would lose our consumers. And too many people would say, oh, well, you know, it's just about right, and don't understand some of the technical requirements of the definition of quality. And then if you're exporting to the UK, for example, UK off-takers, shops have particular needs for, they're in competition. They have to meet price competition. So you have to understand the local pricing in the market you're going to. We've talked about, you know, the quality, and that could be in, you know, so much fruit in the UK gets thrown away because it's not the right size or color or what have you. The quality has to be, the quantities has to be there. You know, you're going to destroy your reputation if you deliver short quantities. Your off-takers will rely on the quantities that you're expected to deliver. And all of these things will take a great deal of research before you just start the process. And Busola talked about the importance of local regulations. They're very important in that every market in the EU, the UK, now it's outside the EU, places like the US, they have very strong local regulations, and you have to understand those. And something that Busola said was important was when people get to know you, whether that's at the local airport or whether it's your off-takers, if you build a reputation, your life will be easier. You know, sometimes you have to take a hit, but you need to keep that reputation, because if you lose a reputation and you're considered to be someone who often fails, you will find you get into more hassle from regulators and you lose the confidence of your customers. So that's very important.
Thank you very much, sir. You need to build a reputation. Now that's probably your last word, and I want to build the conversation on that. You know, somebody once told me you can't sell a bad product twice. You need to put your best leg out first. And coming from your experience, Mr. Keith Richards, I just want to ask you that where are we really as a country, and then maybe as a continent, in bridging the gap between local content and global standards? And what should we be doing? I'm just trying to let you tie it up in a more technical and more maybe business-like manner so that we would know exactly what we should be doing, because I think those are the gaps quite clearly. We have local content in Nigeria. Every country has its local content. So when you're going to go and say you want to export, what is the gap that we need to fill as a country? Is it technical? Is it training? Is it capacity building? Where are we? Thank you.
Well, I mean, that's a very, very big question. I mean, I think capacity building is very important, and education. But I think the biggest problem, without a doubt, is logistics and the failure of infrastructure. You know, my heart goes out to genuine Nigerian producers who are trying to get their produce into, you know, the transport hubs, into Lagos, to the airports or the ports, because I understand how difficult that is. We see that with LNZ Farms as we're trying to develop the Nigerian dairy industry. Probably our single biggest issue is transport infrastructure. And, you know, that would be my message with the young man there from the central bank, that if Nigeria really wants to help their local producers export, they need to provide the infrastructure to enable it.
And on that note, I would like to bring in Surajit Raha. Mr. Keith Richards actually opened the door to you. He said logistics and infrastructure is very important. And we don't have any other company than Carbon 360 to talk about logistics. So what's been your experience? I know you are the new kid on the block, so to say, in Nigeria and Africa. What's been your experience, and what do you need to say to what Mr. Keith Richards just mentioned? Thank you.
Thanks, Titi. I think Keith Richards was spot on when he talked about the challenges related to logistics and transportation. I think that is one of the most critical pieces in this entire game. You know, moving produce from point A to point B to the ports of Nigeria or the airports for exports. And that is such a crucial piece to make this entire thing successful. So before I tell you any more about that, let me just give you a brief insight about what Covo 360 is all about. So Covo 360 is a technology-enabled logistics services provider. We use our technology platform to aggregate the fragmented truck supply in the markets in which we operate. In fact, most of the African markets in which we operate, they're characterized by extremely fragmented truck ownership patterns. A typical fleet owner will probably own maybe 3 or 4 trucks. And degrees of professionalism. So that makes it extremely difficult for buyer of logistics services to get in predictability. Covo 360 is headquartered in Nigeria. We started, like I said, 3 years ago. We are funded by the IFC and Goldman Sachs. And while we've expanded to now about 7 countries. We're physically present in 7 African countries, but we serve close to about 17 nations out of the 7 countries that we're based in. And we seek to address the infrastructural bottlenecks and the on-ground conditions. We understand that very well. We understand the challenges. There is no one magic solution to this. There are multiple things that we work on. Because at the end of the day, one of the largest costs is inventory in the pipeline. You don't really save money by knocking a few naira off freight rates. You save money by bringing in predictability and visibility into the supply chain and reducing inventory in the pipeline, which enables our customers to do on-time, in-full deliveries to their buyers. So that's what we do. We align with our customers and try to deliver on those critical success factors. That's what I just wanted to share in terms of the way we view the challenges and our approach to logistics.
From the logistics point of view, and of course from the infrastructure development point of view, what is your take about how we are moving and hauling commodities, and isn't it time for us to move from the land?
Okay, so there are multiple thoughts that you've expressed. So let me try and address those. Of course, I think I heard you say air, but air is really perhaps the most expensive means of transportation. So let's just park that for the time being. I mean, I guess it's limited to perishable fruit and vegetable. But when you talk about other commodities like cashew and soya bean and sesame seed, etc., which is produced in bulk, exported in bulk, air is not really a viable option. So if you look at the Nigeria-specific context, most of the cargo moves out of Apapa. Why? Because the shipping rates out of Apapa are lower than compared to Port Harcourt. There are more liners calling on Apapa. So that gives exporters, the SMEs, shipping cargo more options. But then, like you also mentioned, it is a nightmare getting in and out of Apapa. In fact, the common refrain that we hear is it costs, maybe about $8,000 to $9,000 to move a container from China to Apapa, and it costs almost that much to move it out of Apapa into upcountry, north. Which is insane. Apapa remains a choke point, so there are options. We are We're looking at using Port Harcourt as an option. Of course, the shipping rates are slightly more expensive, but then you trade off predictability in terms of meeting the sailing timelines, meeting the buyers' timelines of ensuring that the cargo reaches the destination, vis-a-vis, maybe cheaper shipping rates out of Apapa. As far as Apapa is concerned, well, we are exploring two specific options of trying to ease the bottleneck. And let me tell you, it is not just up to Global 360. There are so many other stakeholders. Because this is a basic infrastructure issue. So there is the Nigerian Ports Authority. There are, the customs authorities involved. There are multiple people. But having said that, a couple of things. Suggestion. The rail link from Yaba into the various terminals is restarted after a gap of a year. That's one option of trying to ease the jam getting in and out of Apapa. The other is, of course, like you mentioned, the barging option, wherein you drive your trucks onto the barge and move the barges onto the various terminals. And all of this is being done to beat that gridlock. There is no one single solution. There are multiple things that we work on. Of course, all of these add to the cost, whether the barging or the rail, because that comes with the related handling charges, etc. But then you look at the timelines, the cost of, the cargo missing the sailing deadline perhaps ends up being far more in terms of not just the duration and quality of the produce, but also like we talked about, Busola mentioned in terms of reputational damages of the exporter not being able to meet the deadlines. So again, it's a trade-off of cost vis-a-vis these other gains. So we use barging, we're looking at rail. I believe the port authorities are implementing the auto call-up system very shortly, maybe from next week in Apapa, to ease the gridlock. Honestly, I'm not sure how much for success that's going to be, because there are serious infrastructure bottlenecks and you have these thousands of trucks trying to get in. But let's see how it goes with all of these options of barging, the rail, and this auto call-up system. And of course, hopefully, we will have more traction out of Port Harcourt and reduce the reliance on Apapa.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe that we have a couple of our participants who have questions. We'll be taking that shortly.
We are the IMAT company. We offer agri infrastructure, mechanization, and technology solutions from some of the world's most advanced research and development manufacturers. Partnering with the likes of Asud of Spain, representing the water crop trade from Talyal in Israel, amongst others. The IMAT company is determined to propel agriculture and food production in Africa's largest economy. The IMAT company, agricultural inputs that matter.
Deepak, let's hear your story quickly. Thank you for waiting.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. When we started in 2015, and at the time we sort of understood that there were a lot of challenges, and also a lot of opportunities. So even though we had such a huge population, we weren't feeding ourselves. We also sort of exporting mostly raw materials rather than finished product. I would say we sort of stepped in very naively, very ambitious, but upon getting in, we sort of understood the challenges and understand that because of it's a value chain, and so you can't act independently without understanding the constraints across the value chain. And so that has sort of been our essence, where we're on the end of the value chain. So we're secondary processors. We source granules from farmers and we process them into peanut snacks. So flour coated peanuts, regular roasted peanuts, and we sell them for 50 naira. So, the demand side is sort of very straightforward because it's the bottom of the pyramid product. But then we started to look at exports, and we started to understand that quality was a big issue. So aflatoxin being a critical one, but the other being that we're not as competitive as other producing countries. So Nigeria's yields is less than half of the global average. And so, when you look into that issue, you start to understand the challenges around inputs. And so we've come to a point where we are taking an ecosystem approach. We're sort of developing an inclusive agribusiness cluster where all the stakeholders are at the table, and we're sort of bringing resources collectively, because you find that there's nobody necessarily enjoying the business. So the farmers are making money, the processors are struggling, the aggregators are making that much. So ultimately, we've made quite some progress. We've made quite some progress. We have a partnership now, where we're sort of taking this value chain approach. And but we're sort of very enthusiastic about the future, because what you find is that when you're able to tackle the quality issue, the post-harvest management, and sort of the typical issues you have in the value chain, they are not infinite, right? There's a finite set of problems, and there's a specific amount of input that's required. Once you're able to sort of understand that and drive towards that, it's very promising, because, for instance, in Nigeria's case, we do 3 million tons of groundnuts, which is over $3 billion. But you don't have one person who's able to say they have a $50 million business. But the consumption is still quite large. So I think the future is bright. For a lot of value chains, it's just that the problems are real and they sort of need to be dealt with.
What you think about young people getting into the agri space, and what's your capacity in terms of staffing? Have you been able to cope with developing capacity for younger people like yourself to work with you? And how's it been?
It's been a pretty interesting journey. So interestingly, I got into agriculture because when I wanted to start going to entrepreneurship full time, one of my requirements was that I wanted to go into an industry that was not sort of already dominated by established players. So we stayed away from things like road. You'll see that a lot of the work or a lot of the innovations happening in agriculture today are driven by young people. So when I look at a lot of the sort of players in the industry, a good number of them are sort of young people. And that's because, as we know, agriculture was sort of neglected. Everyone sort of was doing the more traditional oil and gas or banking. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for young people because it's been neglected. And the thing with agriculture is every value chain is different. So you might decide to do strawberries. I know a lady who's doing strawberries. For a long time, we were sort of one of the only people who really focused on groundnuts. Something else, and that was enough. That was sort of a handful enough for them. And it's almost still so many sort of variables. And even when you take a specific value chain or a specific commodity, there are parts of the value chain that are neglected. Some of it might be seed multiplication, some of it might be selling relevant goods. And so on the one hand, because it's still underdeveloped, there's so many opportunities, but it's also very relevant in terms of the consumer, right? Because the average Nigerian spends over half of their income on food. And so one of the things I think about entrepreneurial addressable market, how viable are these businesses? And I think for the spark, as a population, it's sort of viable business. In terms of building, it's definitely been a learning curve, because when we started, we started very lean in like a one-room apartment, literally, and started with all manual processes and sort of grew the team to about 100 people, mostly production staff. It's been a learning curve in terms of management, in terms of processes, in terms, because as you grow, there's new challenges, there's new, requirements, and you're sort of learning as you go. So in terms of working with young people, it's had its pros and cons. We sort of got to a point. We got to a point where we had to understand areas where we needed experience. And that was sort of a turning point for the business, because at the beginning, it was pretty much all young people, mostly younger than me. And then I sort of got to a point where I said, look, I need people who have 20 years experience in a specific category or a specific part of the business. And that changed it for us, because they brought in relationships. They just cut the learning curve in half. So I'll definitely collaborate with more experienced people, because we sometimes have the passion, but not the experience.
Yeah, you're very right. So we see that the platform or the scope is huge, and both the young and the old can get on board and work together to produce the desired results. Just can we do one minute from Mr. Keith Richards, Suajit Raha, Busola, and of course Ladipo. 1 minute post-COVID. So let me take it from Mr. Keith Richards.
I think that's quite a difficult question, because I've been in the UK obviously since COVID. I haven't travelled anywhere, and the UK is going through the whole issue about Brexit as well. So we have a double whammy, and it's been very difficult for businesses here, for supply chain particularly, because you know, if you're a consultant or a banker or an accountant, you can work at home. But if you're in the supply chain out there, it's very different. I think one of the trends that we're seeing is this move away from shops to online delivery. And I see that trend continuing in the UK, and I think it's been replicated in Europe. Now, that's a threat and an opportunity. It's a threat because some of the standard routes for distribution may not be there. So typically, a lot of small-scale, say, Nigerian goods that cater for the Nigerian market in the UK, there are over 1 million Nigerians, it's a significant market here, would be through cash and carries. It may be that's going to change now, and businesses should be looking for online services. They might need to partner with someone to do that. They might even look to do that themselves. And I think that's a trend that people need to be aware of and to monitor. It's probably a little early to see the impact, but I think that's one of the areas that we're definitely going to see a change.
So actually, what would you say post-COVID? Where are we?
Okay. Well, initially, of course, it did slow everybody down a bit. But I think from our perspective, we pivoted very quickly, and we embraced technology adoption and the ability to work remotely. And we encouraged our customers as well as our transport partners to adopt the KOBO technology. And it also accelerated the launch of our GLOS, the Global Logistics Operating System. So to give you simple examples, we started getting electronic indents from our customers instead of physical documents. Similarly, we encouraged our transport partners also to pick up the indents for placing trucks, on electronic method instead of physical exchange of documents. We started using electronic waybills. Customers started accepting digital invoices. So I think the pandemic forced all of us to embrace technology and also become more adept at remote working. And I think it also helped us develop better tracking systems. We started using magnetic trackers on most of our trucks that gave us better visibility. So yes, it's been a learning. It's helped us embrace technology, and which has actually helped us become a little more efficient. Not a little more, significantly more efficient. Of course, it remains to be seen that once, post-COVID, and we all would like to believe that post-COVID is going to happen sooner than later, that we continue with the digital adoption and not revert to the old ways. And that's the hope that we have.
Thank you. Another, we'll take Ladipo and Busola. We know technology would link towards service, but it's about goods and services now.
Yeah, thanks. So I think for us, one of the things that we did immediately COVID happened was look for the opportunities. And we were surprised by how much cost we were able to cut. So we were forced to cut costs and we were able to do that. But we also sort of were faced with the vulnerabilities in our supply chain or the risks we weren't aware of. One of which, for instance, was the effect of commodity pricing and how we can effectively hedge against that. So through, we're then able to sort of figure out warehouse finance to allow us to come 7 to harvest. And so I think the biggest impact for us was sort of strengthening or building resilience into our system. In terms of post-COVID, I think for us, honestly, it's really being able to hedge the commodity prices in the future. I think it sort of goes back to your boring old manufacturing or processing, and we sort of have a very traditional business model. In terms of technology adoption, we sort of looked at some solutions, but to be honest, it's really the commodity pricing side that I would say is the big takeaway for us.
Thank you very much. Busola?
Yeah.
Okay, in terms of during the COVID times, what we did is we had a lot of problems with vegetables because there was no way of getting the veg out of the farm to our customers. So I started looking at the process of having frozen veg. So that actually birthed the another line in our business that now we can now start producing. We're working on it. We're trying to perfect it. We started it last year, and it's frozen vegetables, all the ugu, everything that we take fresh. We're now trying to make the frozen pack of it. So we're still at the teething stage because we have to get cooling vans, more cooling vans. We have to get blasting machines and a new line, packaging and co. So we're actually trying to come out of the fresh. So in case anything happens this year, the world is extremely unpredictable. Everything is unpredictable right now. So nobody can say that definitely there will be no more COVID or crisis this year. So we're trying to prepare ourselves for what might happen. We hope it doesn't happen. And but if it happens or it doesn't happen, we're still building our frozen line. That's what we're doing post-COVID.
Thank you very much. And so I would like to ask Yulamo to please round up this session for us with your gift. You have a gift for us.
I would like to join you the presentation that I am going to use. I am going to speak a little bit about the how to export Nigerian agri-food to the European market. This is a standard, okay? You can do exactly the same with the rest of the world's markets. Let's start with a high value crop that you are planted over there, and you have many, no? It's avocado. Here in Spain, it's not so common, but we are starting to plant it, and from ASUD, we are starting to do doing projects in avocado production and irrigation and all these type of things. This will be in the south of Spain. Okay, let's speak a little bit about the domestic avocado production. This is euro kilo that we supposed to produce, but this is not true. Why? Because avocado production starts in October, November, December. The rest of the year are companies that buy the avocado, bring it to their companies, collected here in Spain, and then sell it to the common market, okay? So the open for the importation is open during the whole year. Okay, here we have the kilos, and here we can check the local standard prices. If we take account that this is not local production, if not, it's also importing production, we are speaking between 3.5 euros per kilo until 4 euros per kilo in case of local. But let's continue to the import avocado. This is the point that I would like to show you, and you start to know a little bit. Okay, as you can see, we have peaks with different countries. Is Mexico, Colombia, Brazil, Peru. That these ones are the big fishes. Okay, this is interesting, right? This is the maximum demand in the market, and the big fish enters in the market with power. We can see the maximum prices, the standard prices that we have in the market. That you can see is everything is standard and constant. Okay, when comes the maximal production for the exportation and the local one, it will reduce a little bit because we have to some kind of protection, no, of our produce, but the rest is going to be exactly the same. But the main point, the interesting point for the Nigerian market.
Welcome to ASUD. A company dedicated to the efficient use of water. We are a 35-year-old ongoing project oriented to the future and to innovation. Together with the IMAT company, our Nigerian authorized partner, we want to give you plenty of reasons to join a true revolution in the culture of water. At ASUD, we behave like water, we feel like water, we are water. This culture of water is imprinted in our DNA, evolving as part of our strength of investigation and innovations until it makes us become one of the pioneer and leading companies in the industry. Water is movement, so are we. Our impulse is investigation, research, production, development and technology applications for the efficient management of water. Water is more and more scarce, and we treat it as that, because we manufacture micro-irrigation, verti-irrigation and filtration water systems which favour agriculture, sustainability and energy. Water runs through the entire planet, just like us, because our technology solutions are present in more than 100 countries worldwide and now in Nigeria. Water makes our future and our children's future possible, and so do we, because we are a company committed to our environment and a company which supports scientific development, collaborating with many important research centres and universities. Water falls, runs and trickles without rest until it goes where it wants, just like us, because we are a team committed and capable of strengthening an efficient management of water at an international level. ASUD is a leading company in its industry. It's not by coincidence, it's due to its people. An experienced and motivated human group, young and innovative, committed to the environment, registering new patents and solutions, and of course open to the world, international and multicultural. We are just like you, professionals who have taken the opportunity to develop their careers in a solid company, with tremendous growth possibilities, international mobility and industry specialization. Always with a clear mission, connected by impulse to the change in the agriculture of the future and of our planet. We are the culture of water, and we want to continue flowing to change the world. It's a passionate challenge. We invite you to join us.
Thank you very much for staying on for this long. We're about to round up now. Agriculture is life and life is water. So that's the connection we have with ASUD. And we hope that we would get on board. Those of us who are interested in the services that ASUD offers can reach out to us at IMAT, a subsidiary of AIP BOESS. I'm going to allow Santiago to come on board now for another 2-3 minutes, bring us the roundup session for this AgriTalk, possible solutions and what we have to offer the participants. Thank you, Santiago.
Thank you, Titi. Thank you very much. Well, as you can see, with the last ad that we just shown you, we wanted to tell you everybody that we have signed an agreement with Azud to partner with us in Nigeria. So this is one of the things that we have started doing. Now, I wanted to tell you, just to round up, I wanted to give everybody, tell everybody, thank you very much for coming. And I wanted to give you an idea of what we are doing and what we are planning to do in the near future. Okay, in December, we started this train, this AIP BOESS train. Okay, so we would like everybody to get on board of this train. We fueled the train, we started it, and as we spoke about before, you mentioned COVID before. COVID gave us the opportunity to join our efforts together. We've been working so hard in each one in the country that we live in, and I wanted to show you pretty much what we are. Okay, when you talk about AIP BOESS, you know that it's a fully integrated and diversified agri, fish, poultry, and food production holding company. Okay, but we're not your typical company. What we are trying to create here is a platform. Okay, we want to think ourselves as a platform, a platform in which every single leg of this big table connects together. Okay, so our first initiative is AgriTalk. AgriTalk, today you have witnessed our episode 1. Our idea is to get together with everybody who's interested getting on board of our train every 2 or 3 weeks. So we will plan episode 2 coming up. And in each episode, we will be addressing different issues that are necessary for the entire plan to grow and to function. Okay, so that would be AgriTalk would be our Nigerian and West African platform to the world. Okay, in our agricultural initiatives. For example, one of our subsidiaries, the IMAT company, is the branch that is going to implement the technology that is needed for all of us to continue in this trip. As you see, for water irrigation, we have partnered with Azud, and this is what they bring to the table. Another thing that we really want to do is to bring in knowledge, not only technology, like Azud is helping us. We want to bring knowledge because in Nigeria we have the complete potential. We have the land, we have the sun, we have the ocean, so we can produce food. We can create our fish industry, poultry industry, but we need the knowledge. So we are launching also our ATT program, which is Agri Tourism and Training, for everybody to implement this knowledge and this technology in their local business. Our ATT program will be not only training in Europe or in the United States or in another country that will transfer that knowledge to us, but also training in Nigeria. We'll be bringing experts like Azud, for example. We'll be bringing our partners into Nigeria to help us train our local people so we can continue on this trip. Also, we have a very good help with our land and labor communications and marketing branch. So we will be able to organize these agri-talks in the near future. We will be able to go on the field to interview local agripreneurs. So land and labor will be our communications brand to continue with our initiatives. In the near future, for episode 2, we have different ideas, so we are planning to talk about water irrigation technology. We have a very good initiative on aquaculture and how to breed type of seafood in order to be able to preserve it in alive, so we can export it as well. So at this point, we would like if anybody who is on board, anybody who has been listening to us, sharing this experience with us, to let us know exactly what you need and how we can help you. Because our messages are, in reality, the thing that we really want to do, just like agriculture, is we want to give as much as we can so we can all get back. You don't get anything from the land if you don't give, if you don't treat the land first. Okay, so that's really our message to you guys. I really don't have much more to say because we have completed 2 full hours, and I'm sure we might have some final questions. But I am really very happy. We are very, very excited for everybody here to join us and take advantage of the opportunity to make a difference. Okay, thank you so much.
In the middle of the morning on a Friday, it's not an easy time, and that you have all spent 2 hours with us today. We're very grateful. Like Santiago has said, our approach is that when you're dealing with agriculture and food and people and farmers and sustenance, you have to first give before you can expect to receive. And that's what we're in the endeavor of doing, to give as much as we can. And we do this by creating these platforms where the industry and the sector can talk to one another. It's the start of the journey. We know it's going to be a long one. So thank you all again once more for coming and spending 2 hours of your time with us. We look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate you. Thank you.